about to listen to the Dr. Daliah Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Daliah Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Daliah.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So many of you suffer from panic attacks. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Panic attacks are debilitating. And for those of you that might be driving in a car and then feel this overwhelming anxiety or inability to breathe, inability to concentrate, feeling like impending danger or death, or you're at work or in the middle of the night, it's not easy. It's pretty debilitating. And there are techniques and things you could do to help you get through a panic attack. And many people don't usually see medical providers. I know this because they try to get treatment over the phone, and we're really losing out on a lot of therapy and a lot of one-to-one and in-person care where some of these techniques are taught. So there's a couple options. The first option that might work is, one, acknowledge it and don't try to necessarily stop it, because you could make it worse. So like, have you guys ever had a cramp in your leg or foot? And it's like, ow, 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 it hurts, ow, ow, oh God, oh gosh. And then you try to tense and you try to move it and you try to, and sometimes you just make it worse. And what I've noticed, like for me, if I ever get that, I'm like, okay, it's happening. It's happening. It's going to be temporary. Just breathe it out. Breathe it out. The less I do, it's going to be over. I acknowledge it. It's going to end soon. Breathe through it. It's happening. I can't reverse the fact that it happened. We're going to get through it. We're going to get through it. And it'll be over. And so sometimes acknowledge it. When I was in labor, like, hey, it's not easy. Acknowledge you're in labor. It's going to suck. The contraction's coming. We're going to work through it. We're going to make sure we still breathe. And it's going to eventually pass. It will pass. Now that's one, you shall not pass. I know, sorry, Lord of the Rings always on my mind. Now, other things, we also understand that for some people that might work. For others, that might not work because they feel like they're going to die. So another technique is understanding biologically what's happening. So your heart is racing. You feel like you're not getting a deep breath. You're in this sympathetic state. And you feel like you need to do something. You don't just want to sit there and acknowledge that it's happening and wait for it to pass or work through because you're feeling like you can't breathe. Then just concentrate on air and oxygen. Just concentrate on, just deep breathing. My body's not getting air. That's my only focus right now. Let's just give it some air. And I'm going to stay still. The heart rate will eventually go down. And you kind of watch and see what's happening. And when, for some of us, we need to see it to know what's going on. That helps our anxiety. For those of you like, no, I don't want to think about the heart. I don't want to think about my lungs. You don't have to. I still stand by, if you're having chest pain, trouble breathing, still call 911. Get yourself seen. I understand a lot of people, they suffer from panic attacks. They've already had cardiac workups. But if you've never had a cardiac workup, get that. Understand that your panic attack might be a sign of medical illness. I don't want to worry you all, but that has to be said. If you've never had your thyroid checked, if you've never had your heart examined, if nobody's ever examined your lungs, and you're having these attacks that are causing chest pain and trouble breathing, I don't want you misdiagnosing it as panic attack when it's an abnormal heart rhythm, when it is a angina or a heart attack. So, still make sure. But that being said, if you did just have a medical workup and your heart doctor said you're good, your lung doctor said you're good, and this is what I want you to do when you breathe. Sometimes knowing my heart is fine, my lungs are fine, can also give you peace. So but you want to do your homework, because if you think, oh my God, I'm having a heart attack, yeah, and it should worry you. It should concern you. Get yourself to a hospital, get yourself checked out. Keep in mind, if your cardiac exam was 10 years ago, you probably still should get it checked out. Remember, I talked about if you had chest pain with a panic attack, that still could be affecting the heart. But again, what is your job to do? To deep breathe, relax, get through it, let it pass, and make sure you're getting the oxygen you need. Now, here's another technique. One doctor had suggested the 5-4-3-2-1 technique. This is Dr. Jason Singh. And the 5-4-3-2-1 technique is identify and name 5 things around you. So microphone, computer, keyboard, mouse, bra. Okay. 5 things. Helps with a little distraction. Then you identify 4 things that you could touch. I could touch my glasses. I could touch my bra. Touch my computer. I could touch the microphone. Then acknowledge 3 things, or name or identify 3 things you could hear. I could hear the car. I could hear the talk radio. I could hear the mumblings of people outside. And if I want to name a 4th, I could hear one of you snoring during my show. Okay. So identify the sounds. Then they say 2 things you could smell. 2 things you could smell. So if you're in your car, you could smell your little freshener thingy. You could smell, like in my purse, my gum. You could smell your hair. Sometimes smells good. So smell something. Okay. So 5, identify 5 things around you. 4, identify 4 things you could touch. 3 is what you could hear. 2 is what you could smell. And then the final technique is offer positive advice. They say a grounding technique, positive advice from your future that would be useful to you at this moment. Like, I don't know, I get a positive reflection. But I know it's not easy. Make sure you talk to your medical provider. Make sure you're getting care for these. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Let's see, if something costs less, but people are happier with it, that sounds like something to look into, and that's MediShare. Maybe you've heard switching to MediShare to pay for healthcare can save the typical family $500 a month, and that's huge, but it's also true that people are way more satisfied after making the switch, too. The customer satisfaction rate for MediShare is double that of the typical health insurance plan. Double. MediShare works. It's been around for more than a quarter century, and members have shared more than $3 billion of each other's bills. People love having telehealth and a huge nationwide PPO network. So yeah, you can save a ton and like it better. Imagine being happy with how you're taking care of your health care. So if you're self-employed or part of the gig economy, or you just want a plan you're happy with, you can call right now and get a price within 2 minutes. A very, very smart use of 2 minutes. Here's the number you need. 855-SHARE-40. That's 855-SHARE-40. 855-SHARE-40.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Daliah. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our Fantasy Football Pocket Guide for Beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
In a study, it was found that 33% of 44 herbal supplements had no trace of the advertised herb. Don't let that happen to you. Hi, this is Dr. Mitch. If you want to ensure quality, please go to TotalWellness.com. Supplements made for physicians only now available to you too. TotalWellness.com, helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen, and big thanks to Daniel, our producer. And big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at Dr. Daliah, Facebook, The Dr. Daliah Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So yesterday, when President Biden was speaking in Las Vegas, I know we heard he had some struggles. Forgot Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin's name and called him a black man when he was trying to describe, how diverse he has been with his administration. And we know he had some struggles, but he tested positive for COVID-19. And so he left Vegas fairly quickly. And people have been asking me about his health status. It sounded like it was viral. It sounded like it was mild at the time. I was told that his pulse oxygen was 97%, which is the oxygenation of his blood. Very good sign. He was given Paxlovid, his first dose yesterday of the 5-day antiviral course, which I remember he took a couple years ago when he had COVID. I think he had rebound COVID and needed another round. But I'm still thinking that he had COVID during the debate because we don't really have a lot of summer colds right now. And so I think this is his rebound. That's just me. But he has been officially diagnosed with COVID. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre said the president is vaccinated, he is boosted, and his symptoms are mild. She says he will be returning to Delaware, where he will self-isolate and will continue to carry out all of his duties fully during that time. The White House will provide regular updates on the president's status as he continues to carry out the full duties of the office while in isolation. Now, apparently he had a runny nose, he had a non-productive cough, some respiratory symptoms, but his respiratory rate, his pulse oximetry normal, and he did not have a fever. I think his temperature was like 97.8. So some of us might run a little bit low. And so 97.8, not bad, although he was in Vegas at the time. So usually we kind of run a little hot just because it's hot out here. But that's not abnormal as long as he's feeling fine. Plus, he was feeling well enough to not go to a local hospital. I think our local UMC hospital was getting prepared to be able to see him, but the president decided to go back to Delaware. The fact that he felt well enough to go back on Air Force One to go and fly back home is a good sign. That means he's feeling better. I don't necessarily, I know some people were like, why wouldn't he go to the hospital? Why wouldn't he get tested here? Keep in mind, this is in the aftermath of the assassination attempt on Trump. And so even though hospitals can very easily be with Secret Service, qualified Secret Service that can, know how to basically sweep an area and secure an area for mild COVID, if he could go to his already established secure areas, I could see that. And it sounds like he's fine. He did attend one event in Nevada, but then he was tested for COVID after not feeling better. And then he departed before going to the other events. And I have to admit, he's been, after the debate, when people accused him of having cognitive deficits and needing to step down, which I think is going to happen. It looks like it is imminent at this point. But, I thought he was kind of doing a little too much. He was going to be at this rally, at this rally, at this rally, so he could show that he's robust. And I'm like, this COVID wave is not letting up. These flirt strains and LB1 and KP3 and, these strains that are out there, they could hit him, if not already. And so when you're around that many people and you're shaking hands and no surprise that a lot of people are getting COVID right now. So I'm not surprised by that. It's just, I think his team needed to be a little bit more smart. I know they wanted to show the answer that Karine Jean-Pierre told the press pool when they were saying, is he fit for office? She's like, look at him. He does this. He's doing this. He's going here. He's going there. He's got all these events. And I'm like, he's going to tire out. He's going to get sick. So no surprise. But Paxlovid is a very effective medication for COVID. And it seems like he's being treated. And so, people have also asked, well, now what? He shook hands with people. He was around others. What about quarantining? So the quarantine
rules have kind of changed a little bit. Quarantine versus isolation. I told you guys the difference. Quarantine is where you think you were exposed and you're questioning if you're sick. Isolation is when you know you're sick. IS for I'm sick. That's how I remember the two. So isolation is I'm sick, I need to isolate. Quarantine is do I have it? Do I not? So I'm going to stay away from others. And so when COVID first came out, the quarantine was 14 days because the incubation period was believed to be 14 days. Well, that's 2 long weeks of people not working, not going to school, just to get out of quarantine and then get exposed to another person to go right back in to quarantine. So workers were just staying home. They go, I got out of quarantine. I went to the grocery store. Somebody coughed. I think I was exposed again. I'm questioning whether I have it again, so I'm going to go back in quarantine. So people ended up just quarantining and never leaving the house. So the CDC lightened up on that in terms of you don't necessarily need to quarantine for 14 days, test multiple times. If you're feeling sick, test and then isolate. Now, the isolation went from 10 days to if you're sick, because you could be contagious for at least 10 days, to then 5 days, but go back to work or school with a mask, to now, look, if you're sick, stay away from others. If you're feeling fine or feeling better, use your common sense. Avoid others, use a mask if you're ill, and try to social distance. And rather than there being these mandates and you having to step on a sticker at the grocery store to be 6 feet apart, which, by the way, was ridiculous. A cough can extend past 6 feet. So, if you think you were exposed, you could go get tested. If you turn up positive, there is medication now. So I do support the testing. I support the testing because there's a medication now that you could take. But now that everybody and their mother has it and everybody's coughing and sneezing and having something, it's going to be almost impossible to quarantine every day for the whole summer, unless you just bunker down. And so it might not be very realistic or practical for a lot of us. So, this KP3 variant has now grown to more than a third of infections nationwide. Then we have the KP2 and the LB1 variants. They are all descendants of the JN.1 or the JN1 strain that was the dominant strain over this winter. They say the KP3, the KP2, and the LB1 strains are making up more than probably 75% of the infections nationwide. And this is being reported by Health Watch CBS News. So what are the symptoms of COVID? Well, runny nose, cough. You could have a fever. Sometimes I notice the fever goes away in the first couple days. Sometimes the fever could persist, and some of you don't get a fever. Pink eye. We're seeing some adults with pink eye. Shortness of breath, walking around, taking the stairs, and then feeling a little breathless, or that you're not getting a full breath could be a sign. Headache, diarrhea, nausea, vomiting, muscle aches. So there's, obviously a lot of symptoms. My concern with Paxlovid are the drug interactions. Now, I think President Biden is on a blood thinner, Eliquis, because he has atrial fibrillation, and that is supposed to prevent strokes and any more future blood clots, because I believe he had a blood clot in his past. You do have an issue with those two medications interacting. So his medical provider needs to make sure that they're watching the dosing and they're making adjustments, because I believe it could increase the level of the Eliquis and he could be more prone to bleeding. So that's, and then on the flip side, COVID can be thrombogenic, causing risk of clots. So we want to make sure he doesn't make another clot. So it's not a walk in the park, but he is being obviously being watched. We're being told by CBS News that several top Biden administration officials have tested positive in the recent weeks, including Second Gentleman Doug Emhoff, Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra. On Thursday, Dr. Jill Biden's press secretary, Vanessa Valdivia, said the First Lady was tested, not symptomatic, is up to date on her vaccines. But I really think he had some, when he sounded hoarse the first time he spoke during the debate, I was like, I bet he has COVID, just because that's what we're seeing right now. So I wouldn't be surprised if this is his rebound. And not everybody is, the big problem with this COVID strain is not everybody is testing positive at home on the rapid tests. And so either it's the tests were designed for older versions, or some of these versions are just different enough to not get picked up, or in terms of the amount. If you have mild illness, and I'm going to test when I get home, I'm going to test just because my nose has been running. When you have mild viral load, sometimes it's not enough for the test. So I really hope we are working on more up-to-date testing. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away.
Hi guys, Dr. Daliah here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms. Whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping, addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdaliah.com. Check it out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
Hotshot Secret Stiction Eliminator.
stiction, that sticky friction, undermines the performance of diesel engines. Third-party ASTM testing verifies that Stiction Eliminator removes 2 times as much stiction than any alternative on the retail shelf. Stiction Eliminator is formulated to be left in the engine oil. It works as you drive.
Available at truck stops, Tractor Supply, O'Reilly's Auto Parts, and online at HotShotSecret.com. Hotshot Secret. Powered by science.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Daliah Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI. So there's been a lot of breaking news. We're being told that former President Barack Obama has now given suggestions. I don't know if it's a direct quote, that President Biden should seriously consider whether he should stay in the race. President Obama, former President Obama, has been kind of looked upon as the leader of the Democratic Party, even though Biden is president. Obama still having his hand in things. I understand that there's a lot of speculation as to how much his role is, but one thing that is obvious is people's now reputation are on the line. And so when you have, I think I was listening to an ad today on the radio where President Obama was asking for us to donate to the Biden campaign. Well, people don't want to, now start misjudging Biden's Obama's cognitive abilities. And so I think you're going to start to see, which is why we saw that with George Clooney, why we're now seeing it with Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries and Adam Schiff, where now they are worried that there's going to be sound bites saying Biden is perfect for the job, etc. Well, Marcus writes, and he's from Henderson, Nevada. He says the Dems keep telling Biden to drop out, but they are not saying who they will put in their place. What happens next? So he brings up a good point. You keep seeing this, Biden needs to drop, Biden needs to drop. Well, it's hard to get everybody on board if they don't know what plan B is. Well, I understand why they're not bringing that up. Anything they do is going to be controversial at this point. And so to, already, I guess, show their hand. Okay. Remember, I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada, so a lot of poker. They want to deal with one crisis at a time. And their current crisis is that their leading candidate, their current president, is flailing in the polls and not doing well and not able to, now that he has COVID, not able to campaign. And on top of all of that, they have Secret Service issues and they have, a competitor who is very, very popular, was a former president, and survived an assassination attempt. They're in trouble in terms of being able to win this race. And so to already say, we're going to elevate Kamala Harris, or we're going to use Gavin Newsom, or we're going to, they can't. trust me, they have a plan in place, but they're not going to say it. So, but yes, it would be, I think, reassuring to people to know what is the plan. Biden is our current president. I always said he's going to leave early and he's going to elevate Kamala so he gets the credit for the elevation, as opposed to finishing a term with people saying that he's wedding himself. But he might just, finish the term and then it'll be a Kamala Harris ticket. The reason why I think it's going to be a Kamala Harris ticket is it's going to be a bad look for the Democrats to not let Kamala ascend and put another man in front of her. It's just not a good look. I mean, the Democrats want the first female president. They know she's not popular. They know she can't win. But it's going to be a hard sell, especially to women in the party, that you swapped another man with a man and you didn't and you just keep Kamala in the vice president chair when she's been, and it also is telling and a testament to their policies. If the Democrats really think that their policies on the economy, on the border, with healthcare, with student loans, with abortion, is it that popular, then why would they go with somebody who hasn't been a part of that administration this whole time? So I think it would be Kamala. I would be ascending, but then who would be the vice president? Would it be Gavin Newsom? Could be. I know they want Gavin Newsom. They're grooming him for 2028. I mean, you could see him licking his chops. Not the most popular candidate, because even Democrats don't like what happened in California. So, but it is a good, and you know what I'm picking up as a physician, obviously, is the unease. There's unease on the Republican side, a lot of unease. Even though the Republicans think they're going to win, whoa, what would have happened Saturday? I mean, wow, I'm still in shock. I mean, that, and hearing that there's been multiple plans, and we've even heard people suggest violence. It's been an ongoing thing for years now, and just because this happened Saturday doesn't mean that's the last time it's happening, especially in light of Secret Service having multiple failures that led up to the attempt led up to the shooting. So yeah, obviously the GOP is uneasy because they don't want anybody shot, including rally attendees. And the Democrats, they're struggling because they didn't listen to all of our warnings saying, look, guys, this is a problem. And those in the media, I mean, they should kind of be ashamed of themselves. They're the reason why this was an issue. I mean, they were like, oh, he's fine. Anytime somebody brings up Biden's mental status, let's just bring up Trump. They should have addressed this 3-4 years ago. They should have addressed it in 2020. We all knew he was going to struggle, and we were blown off. And so, yeah. But what I'm picking up on is there's just unease all around. I see people in the grocery store. It's different. Everybody's different. Knowing that you could have a 20-year-old punk outsmart Secret Service and get millimeters away from murdering somebody and assassinating a former president and a political candidate. It's not easy. And the footage, I mean, people are pretty traumatized by that. And I can see why. I get that. This should have never happened. And it just reminds us that whether it's 1963, 1968, 1964, any of the times when we have had public figures, Martin Luther King Jr. assassinated, RFK Jr., JFK, Ronald Reagan assassination attempt, that there are very, very evil individuals out there that are able to do their evil. And I really hope that we can, I just really hope we can maybe educate people on how this is just politics. This really shouldn't be life or death. I hear people talk, if the Democrats win, it's going to be civil war. If Trump wins, it's going to be civil war. Really? Maybe that's what people want. Maybe people love the fight. Maybe people just want, the media is thriving on that. Boy, did Joy Reid tick a lot of people off comparing Biden overcoming COVID to the assassination attempt and saying that Trump did a photo op. Listen, I call it like I see it. What Trump did, it wasn't a photo op. He was already on stage. He's on stage all the time. He owns a social media network. He wanted to show everybody he lived. He's okay. Everybody, don't panic. He brought down the panic, and he showed everybody he's good. And then his message, because he didn't know how long he would be able to be out to spread the message, was fight. And this is why we have to fight. It's not a photo op. But people in the media, they want the ratings. They want the attention. They want the advertisers. And that's what's driving politics, a lot of it. Only after the debate did somebody give the thumbs up going, okay, you guys could talk about Biden. Really? After 4 years or 3 years, or actually even when he was Vice President Obama, really? So, we need to tone down the rhetoric, but we also need to be honest with the American people. Can't be lying to them if their commander-in-chief is not healthy. 1-877-Daliah.
Considered by most, optimized curcumin is one of the few bioavailable and highly absorbable curcumin products on the market. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch. Since most chronic diseases have inflammation, our optimized curcumin seems to be a perfect addition to any nutritional program. It makes sense to me that preventing or reducing inflammation is a key component to our overall health. The Mayo Clinic found that curcumin can decrease swelling and inflammation, has antioxidant properties, and research suggests that curcumin can prevent cancer, or at least slow the spread of cancer, and in many instances make chemotherapy more effective. It protects our healthy cells even from radiation. TotalWellness.com, where we help you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Self-reliance. It's not a phrase we hear much in our culture these days. It might conjure up images of pioneers, the West, rifles, strapping men, and strong women. But what does it mean for us in today's world? The New American Magazine has just released its latest collector's edition, Self-Reliance, Foundation of Freedom. In it, the New American authors outline the necessity of self-reliance for a free people, tips for self-reliant living, and the importance of not giving up hope. This unique edition includes articles on the self-sufficiency of the founders, preparing for a worst-case scenario, firearms, financial self-reliance, the importance of community, and many other topics by expert writers. Now, for a limited time, the New American is offering a bundle of 3 collector's editions, Self-Reliance, The Great Reset, and Trump World, for just $19.95. Available at shopjbs.org. Visit shopjbs.org today.
Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Daliah, 1-877-DOCDALI. So you'll see a headline saying we have 9 human cases of bird flu. It's not that all of a sudden we have 9 new cases. We have 4 new cases, bringing the total U.S. human cases to 9. These are 4 poultry workers from Colorado. We are being told by NBC News that they are mild, some flu-like symptoms, pink eye, and it could look like COVID as well. But right now, small number of individuals, but these are individuals who have been working with poultry. We are very nervous in the medical field about this. I know right now we don't want to panic anybody. It's mild. Not a lot of people are getting it. We're not seeing human to human transmission, but the potential is there. And we have learned from past experience that we don't do well when we have infectious diseases and pandemics. We are awful at it. Just awful. We're awful to each other. We're awful to the children. We don't acknowledge the Constitution. And we fire people, putting our national security at risk when things don't necessarily follow the narrative as it pertains to vaccines and mandates and et cetera. And so I don't want bird flu at all hitting us, because I just think our country was really off the boat, or off the, just off the rails when it comes to how they should have handled COVID. But there's that potential. And if the reason why it's something that keeps coming up in the news is when avian flu, which is only supposed to affect avians, has been jumping to cows, other mammals, particles found in our milk, which are pasteurizable, so they are vulnerable to pasteurization, where you rapidly heat, or you heat to a degree and then you rapidly cool. Also, it affects humans. And so a bird disease that could make a human sick starts to make us nervous. The only reason why we're not panicking is because we don't think there's human-to-human transmission. There might have been one case between a dad and his daughter, but right now, it looks like it's limited. Also, it looks like people are obtaining it not because somebody breathed on them, but because they touched infected animals. Now, still, that could be threatening because it's not super close cut. I mean, you're not kissing the animal. You're not, sharing needles with the animal. You're working with the animals, which means, are they absorbing it tactily? Are they absorbing it through the skin, or are they getting it, or are they getting it through respiratory droplet, which is what we believe, where the animals are spreading it to them through exhalation or droplet transmission. And so if an animal could breathe on you and get you sick, that could be concerning. Right now, again, symptoms look like flu symptoms: fever, chills, cough, sore throat, runny nose, and pink eye. And we've seen that with previous bird flus when humans got it. They say that the cases stem from a global outbreak of H5N1, which is a strain of bird flu that took off in 2020. It has been primarily hitting poultry and dairy farms. But our first human case of this strain was April 2022. It was a prison inmate who was culling birds at a farm in Colorado. Now, his symptom was only fatigue, or their symptom was only fatigue. Then Texas reported a second case in April. Then we had 2 in Michigan, 5 in Colorado, the 4 most recent of which were confirmed over the weekend. So who else is getting this? Birds, obviously, seals, sea lions, foxes, skunks, and cats. And they say these animals have died from the virus. So one also important piece to this that we need to be aware of is animals are dying from this. That's why farmers are culling is a nice term for killing, poultry, so that they don't spread it to others, but the animal's going to die anyway. Well, there's a good chance they will. So, since January 2022, they say more than 99 million wild aquatic birds, commercial poultry, and backyard flocks have been affected. They either died on their own or were culled to prevent further transmission. 160 dairy cow herds have been struck since the virus was detected in cows in March. So H5N1 is a very pathogenic virus for birds. Can also affect other mammals, can be transmitted to humans. The only thing we don't have clarification on is how easily it's going to be human to human transmitted, if at all, and how many mutations away would that take. The more you have something proliferous and proliferative in a community, and the more viral replication, the more chance of mutation. And as we saw with COVID, some of the mutations made it stronger, made it more infectious, made it easier to escape vaccine immunity and natural immunity. So as a physician, I'm here to tell you guys, I don't think everybody needs to panic, but I do think the country needs to be aware that if this does start to infect people more, I think since 1997, they've had maybe 900 total cases, half of whom have been fatal, but the mortality rate is lower, and some of the current cases in America seem to, and no one's died from it in America. It's been mild, but we should be making sure we have means to test, means to vaccinate, and means to treat. Now, currently, I'm under the impression that Tamiflu, an antiviral, can treat this. But when we had swine flu, we had a huge shortage of Tamiflu. And we had a shortage of Tamiflu last year or the year before because of telemedicine. People would call up saying, my at-home COVID test is negative, give me Tamiflu. Whether they were honest about it or they lied, they wanted a medication and they got it over the phone. And nobody confirmed if they actually had flu. And we still can do that. We could still give Tamiflu over the phone if somebody says, I was exposed to flu. I think we should have at-home flu tests. I said this early on in 2020. For the love of God, we cannot have another Tamiflu shortage or Zofluza or other antiviral shortage at this point, especially since we have other drug shortages. We were low on Tamiflu. We had a Tamiflu shortage before flu season started in 2021. Or was that 2022? I think it might have been 2022. Why? Because people were testing for COVID in September and October, said, oh, I guess I don't know. Or they just thought, you know what? I think it's flu. Right? Flu season usually starts in October. And we were already out. So we need to have a means to confirm. If you test positive, you get it. Now, the reason why we've been so liberal with Tamiflu prescriptions is because the guidelines are, if you were exposed to the flu, we treat you. So, but those guidelines were made before COVID. So if there is somebody in your family who tested positive for flu and you are now getting symptoms, we start treating you. Or the guidelines said, look, if you are near a household member and you're not sick, you could be on a prophylactic preventative dosing. What's the difference? Well, it's like Tamiflu 1 pill once a day for 10 days if you've been exposed, or Tamiflu 1 pill twice a day for 5 days if you have active virus, active disease. No wonder we ran out of Tamiflu. If people were having COVID symptoms and saying, oh, I guess I have flu, it was never confirmed. So obviously something we need to do, especially if we're starting to be concerned about avian flu. 1-877-DOC-DALIAH. Don't go away.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.